100 Children, 100 Stones by Candy Floss Consumer. Chapter 9. 5 Days. Sakura is warm. She shouldn't be, considering she collapsed on a beach the last time she was conscious. And just in shorts and a sports bra at that. She moves to sit up, gritting her teeth as her body immediately begins screaming at her. When she opens her eyes from scrunching them tightly, black spots dot her vision. That doesn't prevent her from seeing Kakashi, of course, but she kind of wishes that it would. Despite 3/4 of his face being covered, her sensei still manages to look both concerned and disappointed. A quick check on her sensory net, and Sakura is able to quickly note that the boys are once again in the forest. And from their chakra fluctuations, they are still trying to figure out the tree walking exercise. Kakashi clears his throat, and Sakura's eyes snap back open. She rubs the back of her neck sheepishly, absently noting the bandages wrapped around her hands. "Did you know that would happen?" Kakashi questions her, pushing himself off of the wall he had been leaning on and walking over to her. Sakura winces slightly. Now that she knows her sensei, it seems like she can never lie to him. Looking back, she's surprised that she was able to keep up her facade for her introduction. Sakura doesn't prolong her reply. "It was a possibility," Sakura admits. She may not have clearly recognized it with all the hurt that clouded her mind when she started the rites, but she had known. Not up front, but she had technically known. Kakashi sighs at her answer, crossing his arms as he cocks his hip out. As team leader, her sensei has every right to punish her for risking the mission. When shinobi accept missions, they are tools for the duration of them. And for Sakura, who descends from a long-fated clan that no one remembers, for Sakura, who is a civilian born in the eyes of the village, for Sakura, her role is to be the cannon fodder between danger and her teammates. Sasuke is the last of the Uchiha, and Naruto, he is the last known Uzumaki in Konoha. Should the two be exposed to lethal force, Sakura is supposed to stand between them and the blade. Sakura has known this since the beginning, has known what to expect, has observed the difference in the way most of the academy instructors treated clan kids when compared to the civilian-born. But as always, Kakashi defies her expectations. Instead, he ruffles her head, obscuring her vision. "You finished, didn't you?" Kakashi asserts, the question requiring less of an answer and more of a confirmation. When she can see again, she notices how her sensei's eye lingers on her bandages, and the Lichtenberg figuren that creep out from beneath them. Sakura nods, not only to assuage his worries. "Yeah, when it comes to the islands, usually only a blessed Haruno can complete the rites. I'm surprised she accepted me, to be completely honest. But it won't happen again." Sakura cements the fact in her sensei's mind. Not as a soothing lie, but more as an unfortunate truth. Harunos that are marked with Lichtenberg figuren cannot lead the rites. It means that they have led the funeral too early, that the ocean was forced to speak to them too soon. Sakura suspects that the sheer amount of figuren decorating her skin is evidence of that. Her grandmother had been marked during the second ever Islander mass burial, just shy of 18. Sakura was barely past 12 now. She had undergone no training, had received no blessing. Of course, there weren't any Harunos left, but to the ocean, children are not meant to burn corpses and beg for the dead's forgiveness. They are meant to be protected. Sakura's Lichtenberg figuren are the sea's eternal reminder that whoever was meant to protect her failed. But, Sakura thinks quietly, her protectors have been felled long ago. Sakura blinks as Kakashi pokes her forehead, face less than a foot away from her own. Good. Don't risk yourself again. It is an order and a request rolled into one, but Sakura can't promise it, so she simply nods. If she gives her word and breaks it, she'll be angry with herself, so she doesn't say anything. Kakashi nods back at her, poking her forehead one more time before leaning back. Sakura inhales and exhales a slow, deep breath. Her sensei may not be the village, but in the end, when they are back within the walls of Konohagakure, Kakashi does not decide her fate. The people do. The people and the Hokage. A memory flashes behind her eyelids. It is a depiction of two figures sitting alone on Hokage Mountain. She knows them both, and just as distantly. Except the blonde one now. This mission seems to have changed a lot of things. Okay, Sakura-chan, Kakashi starts, pausing for dramatic effect. Your job is to watch the house. Sakura squints at him, trying to see if he's pulling her leg. His expression is completely serious, however, and he truly means it. I'll be accompanying our charitable client while you and the boys keep Tazuna's family safe. Sakura almost rises out of the futon in protest, but Kakashi easily pushes her back down, fingers placed carefully as to avoid her wounds. But sensei! Sakura tries, but it is quickly silenced by her sensei's withering glare. She shrinks back slightly. Sakura, you are injured. Defending a vaguely fortified location is best for you right now. Kakashi almost lectures her, crossing his arms. And besides, Zabuza shouldn't show up until tomorrow. Sakura thinks about it. Of course, Kakashi never has to explain anything to her. He is her sensei, and logically he should be able to give an order and she should follow it, without any questions. But he does explain, and though Sakura may not like it, she is actually the most recently injured this time. If she were to be in battle, she might be an even worse dead weight than before. In the end, Sakura's shoulders slump as she agrees. I understand, Sensei, she says sullenly, drooping. He pats her on the head again and then disappears in a swirl of leaves. Shunjin, if she were to hazard to guess. It doesn't matter, however, because she will be the one that has to pick it up. Like every other time a mindless Jonin activated the jutsu inside, Sakura isn't mad, just a bit irritated. The color of her face suddenly drains, a realization popping up from the back of her mind. She was basically naked on the beach before she collapsed. Which of her team found her? Sakura jerks back in abstract horror, trying desperately not to think about it. She frantically focuses inwardly on her sensory net, laying back down. Sakura pushes the thought that she is now dressed away. She hopes dearly that Tsunami was the one to dress her, but that is highly unlikely. Sakura throws herself back into scanning her sensory net. She can monitor the house this way as well as rest, she decides. It is going to be one boring day. Nothing happens. The hours pass as Sakura cycles chakra through her body to accelerate her healing, but other than that, there isn't a thing out of the ordinary that happens. Tsunami does come up once in the afternoon, though. The kind woman comes up bearing offerings of warm food and blessedly cold water, which Sakura tries to inhale without looking too much like a pig. That was reserved for a certain rival of hers. Although, Sakura wasn't sure she could still consider the platinum blonde her rival. Not in love, anyway. Sakura thinks about it for a few moments. No, she couldn't. The rivalry would need to take a different turn. Maybe to see who could become a better Kinochi? Except Sakura didn't like the connotations the word Kinochi had either. Sakura grumbles to herself. She would have to figure it out later. For now, she needs to continue monitoring the house. Sakura goes for her sensory net again, only to realize that the radius has shrunken. She can barely sense the boys, and they keep flickering in and out of range. Sakura checks her chakra stores and wonders why she is surprised that they are so low. Getting struck by lightning really took a lot out of her, it seems. It would take a lot out of anyone, if she thinks about it. Plus, she has been actively sensing all day rather than leaving the duty to her echo, who has been in an odd haze as of late. There are no clocks in the room, so she doesn't know the exact time, but her internal clock is pushing for about 2000 hours. Sakura sure hopes so, because that's about the time Tazuna returns from work. Which means that Kakashi should be coming back as well. His job is to guard him, after all. When Kakashi's signature blips onto her radar, Sakura is already forcing herself out of bed. She almost trips on the sheets twisted around her limbs. Sakura pushes through the pain. She needs a hug. She specifically needs a comforting hug from Kakashi. He is warm and safe, and she can trust him. Naturally, Sakura knows that her current feelings are a byproduct of shunting them away when she was a child, but she kind of doesn't care at the moment. It's been years since Sakura has been able to trust an adult. If there was anyone she could trust now, it would be her sensei. At least, she hopes. Sakura is down the stairs in less than a minute, tripping and stumbling all the way. Her limbs are wobbly from lying in bed all day, and it takes her some time to be able to direct them properly. When she achieves full function, minus a few hiccups, she waits eagerly by the door. It swings open with Tazuna loudly entering. She waits for the old builder to move out of the way before launching herself at Kakashi. He catches all 90 pounds of Sakura, swinging her a little before bringing her close. Sakura herself presses in. She pretends that her rough movements aren't causing her shoulders to screech in pain. Her heart fills with an indescribable feeling. It's everything she's ever feared to feel, and everything she's ever hoped to feel, all rolled into one. She speaks, voice muffled into Kakashi's shoulder.
Kairi-sensei.
She greets, the words a little weak compared to her display. She could scold herself later. She's been alone for just about 8 hours straight. It's the longest time she's been alone since this mission went off the rails 5 days ago. And throughout that time, Kakashi hadn't been in her sensory net. Not once. It might be bad that the presence of her sensei has become a crutch, but she has at least a year to wean herself off. It takes a while for a team to graduate to Chunin after all. Internally, Sakura knows that Team 7 will most likely move at an accelerated pace. She also knows that by ignoring that fact, she is setting herself up for harder times in the future. She still does so, locking the knowledge away in her mind's room of throwaways. Kakashi chuckles softly. The sound rumbles, a deep baritone. Daidama, Sakura-chan, her sensei replies, and Sakura lets go at his return, falling silently to the ground. They begin walking together side by side before Kakashi speaks again, this time in question. What's the status of the house? Sakura hums a bit. Inari and Tsunami largely stayed in the house for the day. Sasuke and Naruto have been relentlessly training in the forest. Sakura reports as they walk into the kitchen. Kakashi nods in her peripherals, ducking into the dining room doorway. And what about you? Her sensei questions pointedly further. A small part of her is pleased that he makes a point to check up on her. She swallows down the happy grin, though. I've been getting better. My wounds hurt a lot less, Sakura answers, being truthful for the most part. Kakashi smiles at her, small and genuine. How she knows through the mask, she can't quite figure out, but it doesn't matter. That's good, Kakashi affirms. Sakura lied. All the parts of her are pleased with his concern for her well-being. A soft grin creeps onto her face, and she has to look down to hide it. Somehow, things are getting better.